Thank you much, Nicole. It is 6/19. Free Legal Advice Day is here once again. Attorney Dave Betras hanging out with us, providing your legal answers to your legal questions.
That's right.
For free.
And I missed last week because I, believe it or not, got stuck on Put in Bay.
Yes. Well,
on my car. I took my car over there instead of my boat. And then we went to leave Sunday morning, and they said, 9-foot waves on Lake Erie.
Oh!
Yeah,
man.
It gets wicked over there.
You should have just surfed.
Surf over. That's it.
Surf Lake Erie.
My wife would have been liking that because she'd been collecting some life insurance this morning.
Well, we already have a few questions lined up. This one came from Facebook. We have a couple tree damage-related questions.
Can't wait.
Favorite.
Yeah.
This person says, my mother's house was damaged by a tree during a storm. Insurance company dragging its feet. They did get the roof fixed, but the company is bickering with a contractor over the extent of the repairs needed for the outside of the house. Is there anything they can do to kind of grease the wheels a little bit?
Well, your own insurance company has to deal with you in good faith, not someone else's insurance company. So when a tree falls over in a storm, that's your own insurance company. They have an obligation to treat you with good faith. And if they're not acting in good faith, you just send them a letter or file a complaint with the Department of Insurance, and they'll clean that up real fast.
All right. This one also about a tree-related issue. I know. This person said, I was told if we serve notice to our neighbor about a tree we feel may fall on their house, it'll be paid for by their insurance. If we say nothing, then our insurance company is responsible. It's their tree, though. Do we need to go through an attorney?
No, I think if you prove notice to them. But once again, an act of God is usually what they call a force majeure or something else in a contract. But if they put their neighbor on notice, they might be right. That neighbor's insurance company might be on the spot. Good stuff. I bet you learned that here, didn't you?
We all learn something every week. Well, this one came from email. It says, I have a partial privacy fence to block my neighbor's junk cars and trash. They have a no trespassing sign in their window. Am I able to go onto their property to maintain that side of the fence?
Well, why don't you ask them?
That's fair, right?
I mean, technically, if they say do not trespass and you trespass, technically you get charged with trespass. But if a judge or a prosecutor sees that you were fixing a fence, there's still some discretion there. But I don't know. I believe in reason and common sense, and I'm in the get stuff done kind of phase in my life. So why don't you ask your neighbor? That doesn't seem to be hard, right?
It's a novel idea, right? This one also came from email. It says, I purchased a few feet of yard from my neighbor in order to extend my yard and fence. Man, another fence question. How about that? Already paid them, got it approved by the city, waiting now on them to return the notarized agreement. Can they start construction before that notarized agreement is returned? They say they're dragging their feet.
Well, when you buy part of your neighbor's property, whether by easement or whatever, you got to record that at the county recorder's office. You might have to even have a replot done. So I wouldn't do anything until all those things are done. Because if they haven't returned the signed agreement, we have a law in Ohio called the statute of frauds, meaning certain agreements must be in writing, and those involving property must be in writing. Also, anything over $500 must be in writing for it to be effective. So there's exceptions to it because we're lawyers. We always have to have exceptions. But I would not do anything to get that signed agreement back. But I'm telling you, you got to take it to the county recorder's office. You might have to take it to the planning commission and have it replatted. Or if it's just an easement. But you're going to want to get that recorded at the county recorder's office because that's the only way it's going to get legally recognized.
All right, there you go. So don't do anything until all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted.
And the T's are dotted and the I's crossed.
Oh, yeah, if you want to. If you
we
want
can
to
do it that way, too.
Right. Sure, why not? All right, he'll be back for another segment, by the way. And you remember, you can call in live. There's the number down there at the bottom of your screen.
And I'm going to be in there taking calls, so you can call me off the air if you want.
Yes, absolutely. In between segments, if you prefer, if you don't want to hear your angelic voice on the air, we'll be back with more after the break. Welcome back. It is 6:43 on your Monday morning. Attorney Dave Betras back for round number 2 of free legal advice this morning.
They kept me busy in there.
That's what I heard.
Ask Jody. I kept saying, hello, this is Dave Betras. Welcome to WFMJ Today. and I'm in the weather room with Jody.
Yes. No, well, at least you're getting your money's worth today.
Right.
We had a caller that did not want to be on air, but this is their question. They live in an apartment with limited street parking. On Thursdays, the business they live above puts their trash on the road in one of the parking spots. They'll even put cones in the spots earlier in the day to hold the spot in order to put their garbage there. Is that legal? Are they allowed to move the cones? How does that work?
Probably not allowed to put trash on the street. Has to be on the yard. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, maybe have a discussion with the business owners saying, hey, we have limited parking. Is there a way you could put it on there or do this? That's usually, if the question is, can you put your trash on the street? The answer is no. So just keep it on your property, and then they come up, in that little strip and grab it.
Well, and then they asked if they set up the cones to save the spot before they bring the trash out.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. They're going to move the cones, move the trash, and that leads to an argument.
Yeah.
Best thing to do is try to go in and do it ahead of time. But the answer to the question is no, not allowed to do that.
All right. This one also came from Facebook. It says, do television stations still have requirements from the FCC to do however many hours of community programming per week?
Yes. So the FCC issues those regulations, and you could simply go into I call it the Google machine. They go, and my kids go, Dad, you talk like a boomer. I said, I am a boomer. And so just put in FCC regulations for public programming, and you'll get to some CFR, codified federal regulations. So you are required to do so much public, and you guys follow the law. I see some of your Sunday programs are public interest, and you run.
So we don't want him breathing down our neck.
Yeah, or some FCC lawyer breathing down our neck.
Just as bad, right?
Yeah.
You said you had so a bunch of questions back there, right?
Oh my gosh.
Car-related questions in terms of selling, buying.
So when you're selling a car or buying a car, if it says you are buying it as is, you are buying it as is. So when you drive off the lot and something breaks, that's as is. There's a doctrine in the law, a little bit of Latin this morning, called caveat emptor, and that means let the buyer beware. So if you buy a car, it says as is, or you're selling a car and you say as is, you're letting them know, hey, you better go get it checked out because I'm not responsible for anything.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Latin because we have a question about Latin. The Trump administration is talking about suspending habeas corpus.
Right.
What does that mean?
Bring me the body.
Okay.
That's what habeas corpus means. In Latin, it means...
Well, that's an interesting way to phrase it.
It's the court saying, bring me the body. Why are you holding this?
Okay.
Why do we have the writ of habeas corpus? People always ask me, why is due process so important? Well, about 250 years ago, we had a guy, his name was George, and he was making a lot of colonists, and Americans just disappeared, just like pick them up and throw them in jail and nothing. And so that's where that came from in the Bill of Rights. Everyone's about the First Amendment. Everyone loves the Second Amendment. This is the Fifth Amendment. And it doesn't say citizens. It says persons. Any persons in this country shall not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That doesn't mean trials. Let me give you an example. It's a great question. A school child in a public school, if they want to suspend him, guess what he has to have? Due process, because it's a public school. That doesn't mean he gets to have a trial. I mean, he can eventually appeal to the court, but they got to notify his parents. Then he has to have a hearing in front of the superintendent where he can, he has process there. And then if he doesn't like that, he can appeal it to the courts. So everybody in this country, when you start saying, hey, we could just pick you up without process, that's a very slippery slope. It protects us all. And it's a basic freedom. And it's in the Bill of Rights, the Fifth Amendment. I would implore people to read it. It doesn't say citizens. It says persons. And it came from a guy named King George. So there you go. Frank, I know you're watching, okay? And I brought the donuts. You don't even know. See, I serve it when I come here, Frank. To Marge, to Zuli, Timmy, and Nate. Frank don't know those names.
He does, though.
I do. Frank doesn't.
Oh.
Neither does Brian.
We're thankful.
They come in and they drop it off, and they think their job's done.
We're thankful for you.
I brought the donuts.
He did. So we're well
And
taken
I
care of.
served them.
I already ate my bagel, so I'm good.